Dear ones, it's been a while since I fulfilled my promise to you that I made at the beginning of the year. And so, seeing as the year is almost done, it's time again for me to bring you some terrible puns. We'll start off that way today. I was going to write the homily today with the Christmas alphabet, but it was too difficult because Christmas alphabet has no L. Come on, that's good. You think that one's bad? Don't worry. There's myrrh. That's two. Santa tried delivering presents one year by riding a reindeer. He had to hold on to dear life. That's a good one. All right, small chuckles. I thought these puns would slay, but 4. That's it. Okay. That's it. I actually begin today's homily with the puns for a reason. And the reason is there's a time and a place in our lives for levity. There's a time and a place in our lives to tell some jokes, to smile, to be a little unserious. Jokes and unserious comments and actions can bring lightness to a room. They can help someone feel a little relief. It can help someone take their guard down. And sometimes it's just an expression of joy. Again, there's a time and a place for these things. But the Christian understands that humor has a very particular time and place. But that time and a place is always found within the context of a much more serious life. I want to read again what you just heard from today's epistle. What St. Paul says to the Ephesians. Very powerful words and very practical wisdom for us. St. Paul wrote to the Ephesians, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled rather with the Spirit, addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody to the Lord with all your heart." This is a very, very strong call to live a serious life, to make the most of our time. It's exactly what St. Paul writes here. Live as wise men, making the most of your time. We as Christians have to ask ourselves this on a constant basis. Am I making the most of my time? We really ought to ask ourselves this every evening. Looking back on the day, did I make the most of the time that God gave me? Did I use it wisely? Did I live and walk in wisdom? Or was I foolish and wasteful? And beyond being foolish and wasteful, did I perhaps fail to see the seriousness of the time that God has given me? We unfortunately live in a culture that is absolutely consumed with unseriousness. There's a lack of seriousness in everything that we see people do around us. And we often partake of this without realizing it. You see this expressed in every aspect of life. Think, for instance, of the way people dress. I remember growing up, the first time I went to the store with one of my parents and saw someone wearing pajama pants. And I remember my mom was shocked. To walk around in PJs was unbelievable. I thought that was a little bit extreme, but I've come to understand exactly why she found it so shocking. Or look at contemporary sporting events. You look at pictures and videos of baseball games from decades ago. And what do you see? All the men in suits and ties and hats, the women well dressed. And today we go about everything as casually as humanly possible. Dressing well isn't about making a pretense, but it's first about reflecting our inner world. If we are serious people, we want to look serious. And second, it's about relaying respect to those around us. We respect each other well enough that we want to dress and appear properly kept and upkept. We present, in other words, our best to people, not our most slovenly all the time. Certainly, by the way, this is true of how we present ourselves to God. It's why we don't come to church in just torn t-shirts and sweatpants. It's why we try to dress appropriately, modestly, wearing, if not our best, close to our best. You see this lack of seriousness, too, in the way people speak. Look at the way people talk today. Again, when I grew up, it was very uncommon to hear people curse openly in public. Today, cursing in public is so commonplace. I often have to give people looks when they're doing it constantly in front of my kids. You see it even in news articles. I can't remember ever seeing this when I read the newspaper growing up, ever seeing curse words. Now, absolutely full of this language. And even subjects that we normally would take very seriously, for instance, the issue of cancer, we no longer hold in serious ways. I can't say it because I'm in church in a homily, but I'll tell you, some of the bumper stickers I see relating to fighting cancer are full of lewdness. And of course, that lewdness is supposed to be seen as edgy and thus more real. But what it actually reveals is how unserious we are even about the most serious things in life. We don't take life seriously. And it's reflected in everything that we do and every way that we present ourselves. The cultural stream seems to move us without even realizing it. We don't even realize that we're swept up in this cultural stream, and we too fail very often to take life seriously. We need to be conscious of this. We need to be aware of this. How we act, how we dress, how we speak. And ask ourselves, what do these reflect about the deep inner life that we should be living? What do these reflect about the fact that we ought to be living with purpose? If we have purposeful lives, it affects the way that we present ourselves to the world around us. We should put good thought into how we present ourselves. Again, in speech, in dress, in everything, in all of our actions when we're in public. And I notice this most. It's very rare for me to go out without my cassock. But every now and then, if I'm going to make a quick trip to the store, I'll go in my civvies, my regular clothes. It's rare that I do that. It's becoming more and more rare because I've realized that when I go out like that, I feel different and I act differently. There's a certain, I don't know the word for it, maybe regal nature about the way that I try to carry myself. I'm not very good at it, by the way. This homily is very much for me as well. I like comedy. I like to joke around. But there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. And the Christian today has to learn that he is 100% countercultural. We must learn to be countercultural. We have to pay attention to this cultural stream that's pushing us along without our realizing it, and we have to start walking back the other way. Is it difficult? Yes. Does it take more work and more thought on our part? Yes. But being thoughtful about all the things that we do and all the things we say and how we present ourselves is exactly what a Christian should be doing. We should be conscious about these things. We should be thoughtful in all these things. We should be sober, thoughtful, and wise. Taking seriously the purpose of our life just as St. Paul calls us to. So, dear ones, I challenge you this week, take some time. Take some time to reflect on these things. Ask, where might I need to make some changes? Where might I present the fact that I need to take my day, my time, my life seriously? And I need to make sure that that is reflected in how I act, how I speak, and how I dress. Again, there's time. There's a time for puns and jokes. I'm not saying that we need to be dour and humorless. Of course not. But without the greater context of serious, sober lives, these jokes stop being funny. And they start reflecting an illness within ourselves. And the fact that we don't have our minds and hearts on Christ constantly. Especially, dear ones, during this holy fast period. Reflect on these things. Reflect on these things and ask yourself where we can make some changes to honor God and honor our fellow man more properly. May Christ strengthen us for the remainder of the fast and onward. Amen.